Every woman carries a relationship history. And for some, that history leaves subtle psychological traces that can't simply be erased. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 quiet but telling signs that point to a woman's real intimate past patterns, so understated that even she may not realize she's showing them. Once you know what to look for, you'll see them in ways most men never do. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment letting me know which city you're watching from. It's always incredible to see the reach of this community, and I value connecting with men who are serious about understanding these truths. And trust me, you'll want to watch until the very end. Sign number 4 is unlike anything you've probably heard before. It's the most manipulative behavior pattern I've ever encountered, and it's happening far more often than men realize. Skip ahead, and you might miss the one sign that could save you from years of emotional manipulation. Sign number 1, too comfortable with closeness too soon. The first sign is something that many men mistake for confidence or openness. She appears completely at ease discussing intimate matters, moving into conversations about physical relationships as if they were no different from talking about the weather. There's no gradual warming up, no subtle build in emotional connection before stepping into deeply personal territory. At first glance, this might seem refreshing, an attractive sign of maturity, but in truth, it often reveals something far more telling about her history. This level of comfort isn't the product of healthy romantic liberation. It's the absence of natural emotional boundaries that most people instinctively maintain in the early stages of a relationship. When someone has crossed those boundaries many times with different partners, the protective layer around intimacy can wear away. She may have lost the instinct to guard closeness until trust and emotional investment are firmly in place. Her words carry a certain detachment, as if describing events from a distance rather than feelings tied to them. She might possess an advanced understanding of male psychology in romantic contexts, knowledge that feels learned through experience, not intuition. The real concern appears when you move beyond conversation. She initiates or accepts physical closeness without the emotional buildup that usually makes such moments feel special. There's no sense of rarity or significance. It's mechanical, practiced, almost routine. When physical intimacy becomes just another step rather than the culmination of growing connection, it loses emotional weight. Repeatedly separating the physical from the emotional makes it hard to recapture that original sense of meaning. Over time, each new relationship may feel less important because the bond between body and heart has been weakened. Many men misread this as appealing confidence, when in reality, it may be evidence that intimacy has become ordinary in her life rather than cherished. You might notice what's missing. She doesn't blush, doesn't display natural feminine modesty, doesn't reveal moments of emotional vulnerability when closeness occurs. These reactions are not outdated relics. They're part of the emotional wiring that protects the bonding process between two people. When they're absent, it's a signal that the bonding mechanism itself may have been dulled through overuse. True connection thrives when closeness grows alongside emotional trust. When that trust is bypassed, the relationship risks becoming shallow, unable to sustain the depth and exclusivity that lasting bonds require. Recognizing this early can save you from investing in something that, from the very start, lacks the foundation it needs to endure. Sign number 2: emotional walls that never come down. The second sign may be the clearest indicator of all. She keeps a part of herself locked away, even during moments that should feel intimate and open. It's not simply about taking time to trust, it's about a barrier that never truly lowers. From the outside, she might seem engaged. She's present in the conversation. She joins in activities. She may even display moments of warmth, but there's always a quiet distance, an invisible layer between you and her inner world. It's as if she's acting out intimacy rather than experiencing it from the heart. This is not shyness, nor the cautiousness of someone learning to trust. It's a deeper inability to let another person fully inside. Over time, many relationships and breakups can teach someone to guard themselves so fiercely that connection becomes an act, not a feeling. You'll notice it in the way she talks about emotions. The conversation stays on the surface. She doesn't reveal formative memories, past hurts, or personal fears that shaped her. When you try to go deeper, she'll change the subject, make a joke, or give an answer that sounds thoughtful but reveals nothing real. Emotional reciprocity is missing. You open up about something meaningful, and she replies politely, but without matching your depth. It feels one-sided. You're giving more than you receive. This isn't because she's incapable of empathy, but because she's learned to keep the most vulnerable parts of herself protected at all costs. The same wall shows up when conflict arises. Instead of working through the issue together, she may shut down entirely or decide the relationship should end. She hasn't built the emotional tools to repair and maintain a deep connection because her pattern has been to move on rather than confront and resolve problems. This distance isn't temporary, and it won't dissolve just because you're patient or consistent. It's the result of repeated cycles, bonding, separation, and self-protection, teaching her that emotional investment often ends in pain. Over time, the defense becomes second nature. The tragedy is that while these walls may have once been necessary for survival, they now block the possibility of true connection. Without vulnerability, there can be no lasting emotional intimacy. The relationship may function on the surface, but it will never feel complete. If you notice this pattern early, recognize it for what it is, a sign that she may not be ready or willing to let those walls down. No amount of effort on your part can replace her willingness to risk being open. And without that openness, the foundation for a deep, enduring bond simply doesn't exist. Sign number 3, unusual number of male friends. The third sign shows itself in her social circle and how she navigates her relationships with men. While there's nothing wrong with having male friends, an unusually large network, especially when it includes former romantic partners or men who clearly want more than friendship, should raise questions. You may notice her phone lighting up with messages from multiple men throughout the day. These aren't just occasional check-ins, they're consistent streams of attention. And when you ask about them, the answer is almost always the same. They're just friends. But the frequency of contact and the tone of those interactions often tell a different story. Look closer, and you'll see these are not casual, neutral friendships. They're emotionally charged or attention-based connections. Many of these men are part of her past, in some way men she's dated, had flings with, or allowed to cross personal boundaries. The continued communication keeps the door slightly open, as if she's unwilling to let certain ties fully fade. This isn't about being mature enough to stay friendly with exes. It's about maintaining a network of male validation and, intentionally or not, a pool of potential backup options. She may have fewer close female friendships, not because she lacks interest in them, but because female friendships require emotional depth and reciprocity that she finds harder to maintain. Male attention, on the other hand, offers immediate affirmation without demanding the same level of emotional investment. The psychological pattern here is clear validation, seeking through male approval. For some women, repeated experiences have conditioned them to equate their value with the level of male interest they receive. Over time, this can become addictive, an ongoing need for reassurance from multiple sources. It's not about romantic attraction to each man in her orbit. It's about the security that comes from knowing she's desirable to many. Here's what many men overlook: these friendships often function as a subconscious safety net. She may not consciously think, if this relationship ends, I have other options. But her behavior reflects that very reality. By keeping emotional and communication lines open with multiple men, she ensures she's never without male attention. Regardless of her relationship status, boundaries with male attention are often blurred. Men who are obviously interested in her romantically are allowed to stay close, receiving mixed signals and subtle encouragement. She may enjoy the ego boost too much to cut these connections off, even when it undermines the trust and exclusivity of her current relationship. The result is a divided, emotional focus. Instead of concentrating her emotional energy on building something deep and lasting with one person, it's scattered across multiple relationships, most of which offer surface-level gratification rather than genuine intimacy. If you see this pattern early, understand what it means. She may not be in a place where she can fully commit to one person. Until she learns to set clear boundaries and find her self-worth outside of constant male attention, the foundation for a truly exclusive and meaningful bond will remain unstable. Sign number 4, using closeness as currency. The fourth sign is one of the most manipulative patterns you can encounter. Instead of seeing physical closeness as an expression of affection and emotional connection, she treats it as a tool, a form of currency, to get what she wants. Over time, this approach can create a transactional view of intimacy, where closeness is measured not by feeling, but by its usefulness in achieving a desired outcome. Some women, through repeated experiences, have learned that intimacy can be leveraged to gain advantages, settle disagreements, or steer situations in their favor. It changes something that should be sacred into a calculated move. When she's upset, she may withhold physical affection, not because her feelings aren't there, but because she's learned this withdrawal prompts the reaction she wants. On the flip side, she might initiate closeness when she's seeking something specific, a favor, financial help, or forgiveness for a mistake. The timing often feels too precise to be random. There's a noticeable calculation in the way she engages, physically advancing at the right moments, pulling back when she senses it will keep your interest and commitment strong. This isn't a matter of natural feminine instinct, it's a skill developed through experience, where attraction becomes a bargaining chip rather than a natural bond. Her femininity, instead of being a source of shared connection, becomes a form of influence that can feel unsettling. Every interaction starts to revolve around how physical attraction can be turned into emotional or material advantage. The psychological truth is simple but harsh. When closeness becomes a tool, genuine connection becomes nearly impossible. Once the line between strategic affection and sincere emotion is blurred, it's difficult, sometimes impossible, to separate the two. Repeated use of this pattern fuses them together, making affection feel like part of a negotiation rather than an authentic expression. She may also lose the ability to engage in spontaneous, uncalculated intimacy. Every gesture starts to feel deliberate, as though there's an underlying motive behind it. This makes genuine moments of connection rare and often leaves you questioning whether they were ever real. The long-term effect is a relationship dynamic where physical intimacy is no longer about love or attraction, it's about leverage. You may begin to feel less like a partner and more like someone being managed, guided toward behaviors that serve her interests. Over time, this erodes trust and damages the sense of emotional safety that every healthy relationship needs. Recognizing this pattern early matters. If closeness is consistently tied to getting something in return, you're not building a bond, you're engaged in a transaction. And without genuine, unconditional moments of intimacy, the relationship will always rest on unstable ground. Sign number 5. Knows how to play men. The 5th sign is her refined understanding of male psychology and her ability to influence masculine emotions with near-perfect accuracy. This isn't random charm, it's a skill set developed over time, shaped by experience and repeated practice. She can read a man quickly and knows exactly what to say to make him feel special, masculine, and important. Her words and gestures often land with uncanny precision, striking emotional chords that seem too well-aimed to be spontaneous. Her compliments hit the right spots, the way a professional might target a specific weakness in a game. It feels less like an unplanned expression of affection and more like a well-rehearsed performance. Beneath the surface, something feels calculated. She doesn't just understand what makes men feel good, she also knows their insecurities and how to subtly press those buttons. One moment, she can make you feel invincible, and the next, she can plant quiet doubts in your mind, keeping you slightly off balance and eager to regain her approval. This is manipulation in its most refined form. Her ability to read male behavior and respond with precision may appear natural, but it's the product of repeated interactions. She's been through enough relational dynamics to anticipate reactions and adjust her strategy on the spot. What looks like effortless compatibility is often just highly tuned influence. She uses her feminine presence not as a bridge for genuine connection, but as a tool, sometimes a weapon to maintain control. Her vulnerability, her admiration, even her need for protection may be presented in ways that feel sincere, but in reality are part of a tested pattern over time. She's learned that certain feminine behaviors reliably trigger specific masculine responses. The woman who can guide or control almost any man didn't stumble on that power by chance, it was shaped by experience. Every past relationship has served as a kind of psychological workshop where she observed, experimented, and refined her techniques for directing male emotions. She often carries a playbook for different stages of a relationship: how to spark initial attraction, how to sustain a man's interest, how to resolve conflicts in her favor, and how to regain the upper hand if control starts to slip. These strategies work sometimes brilliantly, but they also block the development of an authentic, mutual bond. The danger is that such relationships can feel electrifying in the moment, but hollow underneath. You may think you're responding to her authentic self, when in fact you're reacting to carefully designed cues. The intensity can be addictive, but without true emotional reciprocity, the depth never comes. If you sense this pattern, step back and ask, is the connection real? Or is it the result of expert-level influence? Passion without authenticity can light a fire, but it can't keep you warm for long. Sign number 6, no shame about her past. The 6th sign is when a woman shows an unusual absence of modesty or natural restraint regarding her romantic history. While modern culture often frames shame as purely negative, The truth is that a healthy measure of selectivity and emotional protection around intimate experiences is both normal and beneficial. It's a form of self-respect. A woman who values emotional connection typically speaks of her past with discretion, understanding that not every detail belongs in public conversation. But here, the opposite happens. She talks freely about previous partners and experiences without hesitation, as if those moments carry no emotional weight. This is not the same as being confident or liberated. It's the lack of healthy boundaries that keep intimate matters personal and meaningful. She might share details in casual settings, unaware or unconcerned about how it might affect the way you view her as a potential long-term partner. When the topic of her past comes up in private conversation, she often shifts into a defensive stance. Instead of answering openly, she may challenge your right to even ask, reframing your curiosity as insecurity or outdated thinking rather than treating her past as something to be kept in confidence. She may show hints of pride about the number of her experiences. She might not give exact numbers, but she will often make it clear that she's been around and that she considers this a positive trait proof of her experience, rather than something that might give a man pause when considering a serious commitment. This approach effectively blocks any honest, two-way discussion about how past choices might influence a future relationship. She doesn't see the relevance, so she dismisses any concern outright. From her perspective, exclusivity or emotional reservation is unnecessary, perhaps even old-fashioned. The core issue is not her history itself, but her inability to recognize why it might matter to someone seeking exclusivity and long-term commitment. A man looking for a relationship built on deep emotional and physical connection will find himself misaligned with someone who views such connections as casual and interchangeable. This creates a fundamental gap in values, one seeking preservation of intimacy for one special person, the other seeing no reason to limit such experiences. When these worldviews collide, they rarely find common ground. And without shared values at the foundation, the relationship is built on unstable ground from the start. Sign number 7, pattern of short relationships. The 7th sign may be the most revealing of all. Her relationship timeline shows a consistent pattern of short-lived romances, with no examples of lasting, deeply committed partnerships. It reads like a string of intense beginnings, followed by abrupt endings that never evolve into something stable. She often frames these breakups as mutual decisions or as situations that just ran their course. But the repetition suggests something deeper, an ongoing struggle to maintain emotional investment with a single partner over time. When you ask about her past, her reasons always lean toward external circumstances or incompatibility. Never a reflection on patterns in her own choices or behavior. In her mind, she's the one caught in unfortunate situations, not someone who may be contributing to the outcome. This perspective often comes with another red flag: overlaps between relationships. You might notice that new connections seem to spark before the old ones have fully ended. This isn't random coincidence. It's a coping mechanism that bypasses the natural healing and self-reflection needed after a breakup. She thrives on the thrill of early attraction but struggles with the natural progression toward deeper attachment and real commitment. When the excitement fades, as it inevitably does in healthy, long-term relationships, she moves on, rather than investing in building something more meaningful. This keeps her relationships locked in the surface-level phase, never developing the emotional foundation that makes love last. If she's never had a relationship last more than 6 months, this isn't about bad luck or just not meeting the right person. It's a behavioral pattern that exposes underlying challenges with commitment, conflict resolution, and prioritizing partnership over novelty. She may say she wants long-term love, but her habits and decisions tell a different story. The truth is, she hasn't had to build the skills that long-term partnerships demand: patience, compromise, emotional resilience. Because she's never stayed long enough to face those moments, she doesn't know how to navigate them, even if she genuinely wishes to change. She lacks the practical experience of sustaining emotional intimacy beyond the honeymoon phase. She literally has no reference point for what a healthy, enduring relationship requires. And that gap in experience can't be ignored. It's not just about what she says she wants, it's about the reality of how she's lived. When your goal is a relationship that's exclusive, stable, and deeply rooted, and her history shows the opposite, you're dealing with a fundamental mismatch in relationship values. The truth is, experience shapes people, and extensive romantic experience can deeply influence how a woman views closeness, emotional bonds, and long-term commitment. These shifts aren't always in favor of building something lasting, and pretending they don't matter won't make them disappear. You deserve a partner who offers genuine emotional connection, values exclusivity, and has the maturity and skills to nurture a long-term relationship. You deserve someone who sees your bond as unique, not just another chapter in a long list of experiences. Don't settle for patterns that show she can't give you the future you're working toward. Recognizing these signs isn't about judgment, it's about protecting your time, energy, and heart. If any of these signs resonated with you, drop a quick comment below saying, "I've seen this." Your story might help another man see the truth sooner. And while you're here, tap that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video that can sharpen your mindset and strengthen your relationships. A high-value man deserves a high-value woman who can match his depth, his commitment, and his vision for the future.